Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Some volume. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Badrinarayan Jasodanandana Badrinarayan Jamuna Tiravanatari. Jamuna Tiravanatari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Badrinarayan Jamuna Tiravanatari. Jamuna Tiravanatari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Boom. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Piri Bhajakacharya Siddha Shishmati Divine Grace Abide Chidran Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON VBD Founder Acharya Jaga Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kota Vaishnava Brinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shikahu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shudwaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Goa Bhakta Brinda Ki. Say Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Dwarka Dham Ki. Navadip Dham Ki. Jagannath-puri Dham Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samveda Bhakti Vinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Say Siddhara Giridhara Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jiga Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the Summa devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Sudamo Bhagate Dhamraganadi Bisaha Kalaundasa Dashamesha Parano Kodunodita Narayana Namaskritchananam Shaivam Narottama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Bhagavatam is brilliant as the sun, is it arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who've lost their vision through the dense darkness of this age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of God Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. So we are on the 4th canto, chapter 26, text 12, in the process of, I was going to say in the process of delivering Paranjam, but he's got a long way to go. And there's a few more twists and turns in this storyline. You know, it's described that, you know, previously people were so perceptive and of such high intellect that hearing once they would understand. There's a Narada Muni meets the Haryasvas, who are the sons of Daksha. Yeah, and he just speaks. It's only 3 verses. He said, "There's a place where there's a hole that one enters, one never comes back, where there's a river that flows in 2 directions, there's a wheel with 36 spokes," a few more lines like that. Finishes. They all give up everything and they give up their kingdom, give up everything within one sutra. It's an analogy, the material world. I mean, we don't have time to go into it, but the beautiful Bhagavatam. It's described that in this age, people, they need stories, you need, analogies, you need pictures and heroes and villains, and it's all there in the Bhagavatam. It really is the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're in the middle of that story of Paranjan. Actually, it's Narada Muni trying to just get around the ego of the king by telling him an allegory. Okay, so Atmanam Arayam Chakre Drupalepa Shrug Adibi Sadva Alankrita Savango Mahisyam Adade Mana Atmanam Arayam Chakre Rupalepa Shragadibihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisyam adade mana Atmanam ahayam chakre Drupale pashragadibihi Svaralankrita sarvango Mahisyam adade mana Atmanam ahayam chakre Drupale pashragadibihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisyam adade manaha Atmanam ahayam chakre Drupale pasaragratai Asaranka Mahisyam Atmanam ahayam chakre Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisyam adade manaha Atmanam ahayam chakre Drupale pasragadibihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisyam adade manaha. You want to try it, Mataji? Atmanam ahayam chakre Drupale pasragadibihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisyam adade mana. Atmanam himself, Arayam as it ought to be done, Chakre did, Dupa incense, Alepa smearing the body with sandalwood pulp, Shrak garlands, Adibihi beginning with Sadhu saintly, beautiful, Alankrita being decorated, Sarva anga all over the body, Mahisyam under the queen, Adade he gave, Mana mind. Translation. After this, King Puranjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp over his body and put on flower garlands. In this way he became completely refreshed. After this, he began to search out for his queen. I'll say, you say. After this, King Puranjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp over his body and put on flower garlands. In this way he became completely refreshed. After this he began to search out his queen. Purport. When a man comes into good consciousness and accepts a saintly person as a spiritual master, he hears many Vedic instructions in the form of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees, and the transactions between God and his devotees. In this way, a man becomes refreshed in mind, exactly as a person who smears scented sandalwood pulp all over his body and decorates himself with ornaments. These ornaments may be compared to knowledge of religion and the self. Through such knowledge, one becomes detached from a materialistic way of life and engages himself in always hearing srimadbhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Vedic literature. The word sadvalankrita used in this verse indicate that one must be absorbed in knowledge gathered from instructions of saintly persons. Just as King Paranjana began to search out his better half, the queen, one who is decorated with knowledge and instructions of saintly persons should try to search out his original consciousness, Krishna consciousness. One cannot return to Krishna consciousness unless he is favored by the instructions of a saintly person. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chittate Kareya Aikya, which we sing daily. If we want to become saintly persons, or if we want to return to our original Krishna consciousness, we must associate with sadhu, a saintly person, shastra, authoritative Vedic literature, and guru, a bona fide spiritual master. This is the process. Sorry, Prabhus. There's no other process. This is the process. You can try so many different things. What is it called? The nipples of on the neck of a goat. Evidently, goats have some of them, some distortion or some outgrowth. It looks like a nipple, but you're not going to get any milk from it. Or what's it? Is ghee offered onto ashes. Okay. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyanagena Salakaya Jakshushan Militan Gena Tasmade Shri Gurave Namaha. Where to start? For most people, and if you think about it, they have all those different... Language is a indication of the consciousness of the people. Just like Eskimos, they have, so they say, like 40 different words for snow. There's dry snow, there's slushy snow, there's snow that's melted and froze. You can go down the list there. So they've got a list of different... because that's their reality. They need words to explain their reality. So if you do a word search, Oxford's Unabridged, you can do a word search. Let's compare. Because the world is, there's happiness and distress. Everyone will agree with that there's happiness and distress. That's no leap of faith involved there. And if language is the expression of the experience of the people speaking it, you will find in the English language, in the Oxford Unabridged, you'll find about, I think last time I looked, it was about 5 pages of synonyms and definitions of pain. All the different flavors, synonyms, of pain. Suffering, distress, misery, And there's only 2 pages on happiness. And just think about that for a moment. So the point is that most people, it's a slog. Like I was over there picking flowers. And it happens, curiously, it happens every Sunday. I'll reveal my secret flower spot. Devotees immediately going to log it in. But across the street, by this animal, hospital, there's 2 beautiful plumeria bushes. Beautiful yellow, fragrant plumeria. So I go over there. They don't belong to me. They don't mind. So I go over there and I pick them. And, before the deity dressing. And there's an apartment there. And they're always packed. What time is it? That's 4:30 in the morning. And they're completely drunk. And I saw, and one guy's going in, they were at the door. I'm picking flowers, so I can hear him say, "You can't come in unless you got a bottle. You only got to bring a big bottle of whiskey, and then you get to come into the party." So, and then I forget why, the other day I was over there, it was about 6 o'clock, and they were stumbling out, and they were just miserable. One guy fell down the stairs, another guy couldn't drive his car, another one having a horrible fight with his girlfriend. Just unbelievably screaming and yelling at each other. These are extreme examples, but that's life? Did you just slog through it? And you get a little bit of relief? What do they get? They get 2 weeks paid vacation if you got a good job? Is that what you get? Something like that. 2 weeks for paid vacation? You know, you can save up your 6 days and maybe sick days and maybe squeeze it out to 3 weeks. So what, there's 52 weeks in a year? So I don't know, what is the percentage of that? We got any mathematicians here? 3 into 52, what percentage of that? Yes, less than 6%. That's what I'm thinking of. Your life, you get a break. The rest of it is just slogging away. I remember, there's a rare few people who are doing a job that they like. I mean, occasionally that happens, you know. But most people, they win the lottery. Do they keep working? I mean, they're out of there so fast. My son, bless his heart, sends me these articles. And this one was somebody who bet the lottery. They announced the numbers, looked at their card, thought they had won. Now, note that the operative term is thought. They thought they'd won. So they're at the office, and they said, yeah, wahoo! You know, I've won. Told their boss off, told their, you've been a chump, and I've been, I'm out of here, Just, got into the elevator, got in his car, checked it. Whoops, wrong number. Had to go back to work. I don't know if he still had his job or what the story was, but it's a rough world. But here it's describing that this is not what life is meant to be. That if one, as the first line Prabhupada says in the purport, one who hears the many Vedic instructions in the forms of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees, and the transactions between God and his devotees. So how to, Prabhupada's example, it's the Bhagavatam example, that how do you cross over an ocean? You got to have a boat. How do you find your way in the darkness? You got to have a torch. These are all things that knowledge is compared to. Wisdom, to a boat, to a lamp, to a sword. You got to have a machete, a sword to cut through a jungle. You got to have shoes to walk on a jungle path. Otherwise, you can't function. You're stumbling around in the dark, suffering every step. Padam padam yadvi padam. Every step is difficult. But with transcendental Vedic knowledge, you can see, well, wait a minute, here's what's happening, and here's what, So you got the picture. And there's also relief, the taste that comes from devotional service. So it is the elixir. Well, I'll tell it this way, and I'm just thinking about the time. There was a Naranjana Swami told me this, that he was in Belarus, which automatically, it's one of those bleak, like Germany. I mean, no offense there, but 9 months out of the year, it's just dank and damp and dark, and it's a bleak place, So you want to make it, where the Belarusians go to Germany for vacation. So it's even more bleak. And anyway, Naranjana Swami, somehow or they got a visa into the country, because he'd been, it's a long story. He'd been kicked out for the opiate of the people and disturbing our workers' paradise. It's one of the last communist dictatorships left. Now it's just a dictatorship. So Naranjana Swami, to get a permit to go on Harinam, you have to apply for it months ahead. And you don't know when they're going to give it to you. But, and you get it. So they'd made an application for a permit months ago, and it happened to show up when Naranjana Swami was visiting. And by this time it was autumn, and it was, overcast, and that kind. It's not really raining. It's kind of, it's not really fog. It's like it's almost raining. And he suffers from, he has severe bronchitis. And the boy said, "No, Maharaj, you're not going." I said, we're going, because when do we get a permit? So they argued back and forth, and of course he prevailed. And so they went out. And they said, "Maharaj, there's not going to be anybody in the park. All there's going to be is some, babushkas feeding the pigeons and a few drunks. Too much vodka." I said, we'll go anyway. The trees will benefit, we'll go. So they go. They set up a little pandal, and they're chanting a nice bhajan. He's leading a blissful bhajan. And sure enough, there's nobody in the park but some drunks, few pigeons, few old ladies feeding them scraps of bread. And after about a half an hour, this young man, There's a university nearby, obviously a university student, which he turned out to be. Young man shows up and watching the devotees and says, "Can I join you?" The devotee said, "Sure, sit down." The devotees give him the mantra. It's 3 simple words. So then, they took a little bit of a break. The devotee, he asked, are you a theatrical performance? Or you got, is this, what do they call that? Yeah, but when you do that live, you're, whatever it is, like spontaneous on the street performance. Yeah, thank you. Is it a street performance? He said, no. He said, well, do you have a philosophy? They gave him Bhagavad Gita. So he sat, quietly reading Bhagavad Gita. About 4 hours later, they're getting ready to go. He says, I haven't finished the book. Can I come with you? He said, come on. Anyway, the next day, he stays up all night, reads Bhagavad Gita, announces to Niranjana Swami, so, I'm ready. He says, what do you mean? He said, well, 18th chapter, Krishna says, surrender unto me, sarvadharma, so okay. What do I do? I'm surrendering unto you. But here's the blissful part. So he moved in. And so he had some things. He got a few clothes and this and that and, whatever. So they went back to his apartment. And his apartment was right by the park. Now, as they're walking through the park, the Niranjana wasn't there. The brahmachari who told him, but Niranjana Swami was telling me. As they're going through the park, right next to where the devotees were chanting, the man said, this young man said, you see that tree up there? They looked at the tree. He said, now you see the 3rd branch up? They looked the 3rd branch up. He says, you look about halfway out. They looked about halfway out. He said, you see that rope? There was a hangman's noose hanging in the tree. And this young man was sitting on the branch getting ready to hang himself. He thought, what is it, Camus? Is he the one? The existential philosopher, the only question is whether to commit suicide or not, Because, why, if it's just brutish, beastly, and brief, I think Hobbes is the one who says that, if that's what life is, and why prolong the suffering? Just get it over with. There's no soul, no God, no rhyme or reason. It's all random, pushing factors running, So the young man was thinking that what is this life? It's, birth, death, disease, old age, miseries caused by other living, any of this and that. And he said, why just struggle? So he was sitting there on the branch, and he said, God, if you're there, this really is it. They call it a Zimat, zero moment of truth. He said, this is it. If you're out there, if there's truth, if there's beauty, if there's a real happiness, not this flickering little jolt to the senses, show me. And just then, the van pulls up, the Hare Krishna devotees get out, set up the pond. It's miserable weather, dank, dark. Everyone else is, depressed. And here's the effulgent, blissful Vaishnavas, completely transcendental. He said, wait a minute. Took the rope off, became a devotee, And that's not uncommon. Shalavati, Shalavati, one of the original Pujari in L.A., she was in San Francisco on a bench. She's such a nice person. She was thinking, it's quite graphic, but she was thinking about committing suicide, and she was considering how to do it because she didn't want to leave a mess. She determined the best thing to do would be to shoot herself in a bathtub or cut her wrists. Can you imagine? Well, you don't leave a mess. Easy to clean up. Don't want to burden anybody on the way out. And as she was sitting, she said, just show me one person who's happy. You know what came right over the hill, Golden Gate Park? Harinam party led by Vishnujan Swami. Anyone who knows Vishnujan Swami, Prabhupada said he can enchant the entire world with his voice. So immediately she, wait a minute, fell right in like the Pied Piper. Off she went, So there is a science here. And I'll give a few simple examples. But how to, as I was saying last week, that the Vedic literatures are both descriptive and prescriptive. Now, does anyone remember these 2 words and how they fit together? Prescriptive, descriptive, and prescriptive. They're sequential. Okay, what does it mean that the Vedic literatures are descriptive?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They describe the human condition. Just like you go to a mall, it says, here you are, and here's where you want to go, and So it's sambandha. It explains, hey, here, you're not this body, you're a spirit soul, you're not the mind, you're not the false ego, Everything's explained, It's descriptive. How the modes of nature work. Oh, that's why I'm feeling disappointed. Oh, that's what this burning passion is. Oh, that's why, that's what's going on here. Hold on. It's descriptive. Okay, fine. Is that sufficient? Sambandha. What comes next after Sambandha? Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. What is Abhideya? The function, the activity. Okay, now once you know where everything, okay, here's how it all lays out. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? So it's prescriptive. It gives you the prescription, the medicine to cure our condition. A few simple examples just for fun. But the Vedic culture, it perfectly understands human psychology. It's not just armchair philosophy. It's not, we're being recorded, but I'll say it. I remember reading the Bible, and there are good things in the Bible. I mean, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount is fantastic. What is it Badrinarayan Swami he loves? What is that book? Ecclesiastes. Oh, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. It's great. It's got some real nice... If you want to be depressed, if you're a materialist and you want to be depressed, read Ecclesiastes, because it just smashes the material nature. So there's some very good things in there, no doubt about it. But I remember reading the Bible, and there were so many things I could not figure out what they were talking about. And then I remember reading Bhagavad Gita, and when I had read Bhagavad Gita, I went back and read the Bible. It all made sense. I figured, I'm just going to stay with the Gita, It's the Rosetta Stone that is explaining the thing. But it is how to elevate the consciousness. What is the science? What is the day-to-day process? It's describing here, because he became ornamented. The king became cleansed and satiated. He ate, he cleansed, he was garlanded, sandalwood paste. And Prabhupada compares, if one becomes peaceful, then one can find out the queen. One can find out one's intelligence. One can find out what the real goal of life is. Prabhupada said there's only one question to ask in this world. Like there's recycling. The guy next to me recycles, which, if you want to help the world be better, forget recycling, forget shutting up the water when you're brushing your teeth. Stop eating meat. I mean, everything else is just, minuscule by comparison. But so he's cycling, what's recyclable, what's not recyclable. He's got two piles there. So for the transcendentalist, we sort everything into two piles. One is one label, one is the other label, and the two words are very close to each other. Anyone know? How the transcendentalist sees? The words are very close. If you're guessing, you're wrong, no problem. Are you raising your hand there? Yes. You're close. That'll work. But sat and asat. What is temporary? What is permanent? If I am eternal, why am I wasting my time with the temporary? Chanakya Pandit says, it's a great line and Prabhupada quotes it, one should never give up the permanent for the temporary. You'll lose both. Never give up the permanent for the temporary. You'll lose both. Because the temporary you're going to lose anyway. So a transcendentalist, he's simply, like Janmadasa Yataha, what is the absolute truth? The absolute truth is that which from everything emanates. So Sat Asat, the Vedanta Sutra begins, figure out what's eternal. Turn to the light. Figure out what's eternal. Give up what's... So the Vedic, the whole thing, the whole culture is meant to elevate. Prabhupada, anyway, Prabhupada's rooms need to be, after breakfast prasadam in the LA temple, 1970, we would all get our work detail. Everybody would line up, it was just like the army, it was great. Maybe there was 30 brahmacharis, we'd all line up, and the temple commander, you're cleaning the kitchen, you're going to the incense factory to pack incense, you're going on Harinam, you're going, And I was on the detail. They were going to paint Prabhupada's quarters. Fantastic, They thought Prabhupada was out in the garden. So, we're there with all our buckets and, paint clothes and, brahmacharis were joking and laughing and this and that, and Karandar was in charge of us, the one man, the one adult on the party. So, we all went into Prabhupada, kind of went into Prabhupada's room and, lay out the tarps and Prabhupada was sitting behind his desk. He was, so, we all offered our obeisances. Prabhupada, then everybody backed up. He said, no, come on, Prabhupada brought it. Come on in, come in. He was quite curious to see what we were up to, And Prabhupada had a garland, this gardenia garland, wrapped around his head about 3 or 4 times. So, it was pretty interesting. So, we didn't say a word, but Karandar asked, he said, Prabhupada, why do you have the garland wrapped around your head? Prabhupada said, very good for headaches. Aromatherapy. Prabhupada was on it, years ahead of time. And sandalwood paste. Here's describing sandalwood paste. So sandalwood paste, if you mix it with camphor, then it's very cooling. If it's warming. If it's hot, you mix with camphor, and it'll warm your head. And in the evening, have I got it backwards? You mix with saffron and. So I'm sorry. So thank you. Good thing we got somebody who knows what they're doing. So sandalwood paste mixed with saffron will warm the head. And sandalwood paste mixed with camphor will cool. There's a whole art to these things. And that's just that we don't eat standing up. You want to become a horse in your next life? You sit down, peacefully. You're not with your cell phone. Then you'll digest properly, the mind. You'll be satisfied with what you eat. You won't eat and just be hungry, still hungry. If you ever been to Japan? They have those, they all stand up. They stand up at the table and they're slurping up the noodles. It's an amazing thing. So, because of the time, let me give a simple example. Any of you remember Irving? Irving used to come to the temple here. Who remembers? You remember Irving? Indupati. We're going to get there in a minute. But good. We're going to get there in a moment. Irving was a very sincere person. And the end of the story proves it. But he was an alcoholic. And he'd move into the temple, and he was a little guy, and he'd been through a lot. He was, had a really, really rough life. And he was an alcoholic. And he'd move into the temple, and he'd try, and he just, We took him on Hari-Nam one time. On book distribution up here in this Salana or Encinitas Flower Festival. I lost him. You know where he was? He slipped into the beer garden. He was behind the beer garden. When people have finished beer, cup of beer, they go off. He'd grab it behind the bush and So Irving had trouble, And he'd really go on a bender. And finally he was in the temple out about 6 or 7 times. One time, we're in Balboa Park chanting. We used to have a nice, just like you guys do. Pondo was there, we're chanting. Gunagraya Maharaj was with us. And we were at the book table. And up to the table stumbles Irving. And he's just completely pickled to the gills, drunk as a skunk. Just his hair's all matted with leaves in it. His hair, pants are on backwards. It was so sad, because he was happy as a devotee, And so, we were just shocked. And Gunagraya Maharaj kind of took him under his wing. Gunagraya Maharaj said, Irving, what? And he was hacking and coughing. He said, Irving, you're killing yourself. You've got to stop drinking. He said, I can't do it. And then Maharaj said, well, at least stop smoking, because he had that smoke hacking, and how their lungs are coming. I said, Irv, you're killing, stop drinking. I can't do that. Maharaj asked, well, where are you living? And he was living in the women's bathroom of Balboa Park. Imagine that. Gunagraya Maharaj said to him, well, Irv, at least move into the men's bathroom. I could do that. Irving could do that. He could make that incremental step. And gradually, incremental steps. Now he's initiated. He's on Padayatra. That's what we did. We got him out of America. We got him on Padayatra. And, he's a very nice Vaishnava. I hope I haven't embarrassed him by saying his name. He won't mind, So, but that process of extracting from the modes of nature That's why we have the Varnashram Dharma system. It is not cult. It's not, Krishna never says janma. With chaturvana mayastristam, guna karma vibhaga sa. Guna karma. By your qualities and your activities, by your personal character. What is, Martin Luther King, when will I be judged? Not by the color of the skin, but the quality of my character. Content, that is judged by our character. So Vedic culture is how to make that progressive path, how to start. It's descriptive, and then what is the prescription? And everything is there. It's all laid out perfectly if you just follow. Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, how to live, how to get up. Get up and take a shower. Take a shower after passing stool. Eat with your right hand. All of these things. We're not, Prabhupada says the Vaishnavas do not have a cleansing phobia. But it's just like with distilled water. You heat it up and then you catch, you get all the impurities out and you get the distilled water. You separate them. So there is a process. It's not that the only scientists are Einstein and, Pasteur and whoever. The Vedic tradition, they have introspective sages. You have Sankhya Yoga. But they studied their laboratory were the ashrams, and the field was consciousness. And their axiomatic laws, you got laws, so-and-so's law of gas, and, Heidelberg's this and that. You got all their different laws of physics. They've got their laws. Read Upadesha Amrita. So there is a process, there is a happy ending, there's a way to do it. And that's why we have Varnashram Dharma. Somebody said, well, the Varnashram, there's duties, what it means to be a student, what it means to be a householder, what it means to, what are the duties of a Brahmin? What are the duties of a Kshatriya? Wait a minute. We want a classless society. Dream on. There's always class. It always stratifies. But what to do about it? And then somebody said, well, it's not for devotees. And Prabhupada said, then why are you falling down? So here it's describing that we have to go through steps. The way we live, what's one of the great beauties of living in an ashram and being trained, and then if you get later on as you're married as a householder, how to live. How to live in this world so you don't become overwhelmed by the modes of nature. What is it? Anyway, so there it is. More to say, but I wanted to end with one other, just a nice story, because we mentioned it yesterday. Okay, we'll just jump to it. There was the mention of Vishwamrita and Vashishta. And Vishwamrita was a king, and Vishwamrita, a Vedic king. And he was traveling with all of his soldiers, on whatever they were, on some campaign. And they happened across the ashram of Vashishta Muni. And Vashishta Muni, saintly, Vaishnav, sadhu, the king, you offer all respects to the king, Naradeva, representative of God. So they, can we get some fruits? Can we say, no. He said, you go bathe. When you come back, we'll have nice prasadam for you all. So the king and his soldiers all went and bathed. They were hungry. They came back quickly. And there was a gorgeous feast prepared for, Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam, thousands. So here's a little sadhu in his simple ashram with his flowers. How is this possible? And he had a kamadhenu. He had a wish-fulfilling cow. So the king was so impressed, the power of this cow, this kamadhenu. He said, the best of everything should be given to the king. Give me your cow. And, the cow, Vashishta Muni, why did he want the cow? Because he got all of his ingredients for his yagyas, all of his ghee and, all of his, everything he needed for performing his sacrifices, his ceremonies. So he didn't want to give it up. And the cow didn't want to go. They were friends, affection, bonds of affection. So the king tried to grab him. He's a king, Ishwara Bhav. And for the cow's horns, all kinds of flames starting. It was a whole thing. And the whole Vishwamrita, they had to flee with their beards burnt, their tails between their legs. So they picked up a fight. So he wanted to become a great yogi, and there's a whole story. And he caused Vishwamitra Vishwamitra caused Vashishta Muni so many, killed all of his sons, tortured him so badly he tried to commit suicide just to get relief. But when he jumped off, all the rocks were turned to cotton. Tried to drown himself in the ocean, but the waves, and he just literally went through hell. And it goes, they both became birds and fought with each other. I mean, it's one of those Puranic stories that just keeps going and going and going. But the reason I wanted to tell it, because his thing is he wanted to become a Brahmin. And he developed, I was saying yesterday, that created a whole faux universe, a whole heavenly planetary system with a duplicate Indra, and sent that that materialistic king who wanted to go in his self-same body, sent him there. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff. But at each step, each mystic power, he would ask, am I now a Brahmin? Because he wanted to be equal. No. Am I now a Brahmin? And just amazing feats. No. Mastery of all, memorized all the 4 Vedas. Nope. Am I a Brahmin now? Nope. And at one point, it hit him that what in the world am I doing? All of this is temporary, all of this is material. I've harassed this saintly Vaishnava. What have I done? And when he became repentant, remorseful, and the key thing, when he became compassionate, when he became overwhelmed with compassion, the Devas showered him with flowers and said, now you are a Brahmin. So this is the essence, Prabhupada describes in the purport, this is the essence of religion, this is the essence of Brahminical culture, which is to developing that compassion. And that's why we go out on Harinam, that's why we maintain the temple, the deities, just to give people shelter. Okay, we can end there. I'm a little over time, so thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hey, Ram, are you going to have Mother today?